Welcome everyone to this encounter where Pragg takes on Krzysztof Duda. Now Duda is an extremely strong grandmaster and a tough opponent in general. He loves to play quickly, he loves to play complicated chess. Pragg had been having quite an off tournament here, but in the previous round he beat Vidit Gujrati and scored his first win of the event. And so he's now looking confident, and a confident Pragg is much different from the Pragg who is low on confidence. He starts to then play some brilliant chess. Let's see if he manages to bring his A game even today against the guy who's known as the Polish Fighter. That's his online username when he plays chess. Krzysztof Duda representing the American Gambits. Pragg playing for the Alpine SG Pipers. The chief arbiter comes in, asks them to start the game, and off we go. E4, and Pragg responds back with the symmetrical E5. We have the Italian game with bishop C4, bishop C5, and D3 played. The knight comes out. Duda pushes his pawn. Pragg makes a little luft for the bishop to drop back. Pawn to A4, gaining space. The bishop drops back to A7. And Krzysztof just castles. The pawn comes up forward, and now we are in well-known territory. H3 played here, H6, and a good move now is bishop E3 to just trade the bishops there. Duda makes an error with knight A3, and now Pragg has the opportunity to play G5, and he plays it. What a bold move there by Pragg. Knight H2. And you can see that Pragg is going all out for the attack. Rook G8, aiming against the king, trying to push the pawn. Duda now finally says, let me trade something here. But Pragg is going after his opponent's king. H5 is, G4 is played, takes here, and now G takes H3 is a very interesting move, because after here takes and knight G4, black has excellent play. But Pragg takes back, and Duda now pushes his pawn, closes down the position, and this is already a better position for Duda. He's looking good. Knight comes back to C6, and B4 is played. Another idea was to simply just solidify the position with G3, but B4, and Pragg gets his bishop out here, offering a trade. The queen moves up. It's a complex position with chances for both sides. The pawn was attacked here, so Pragg pushes it forward. Pawn to F4, opening up the F file. He goes Queen E7, staying steady here. And now Rook A E1. White has small pressure in the position. Pragg goes Knight D7, and now Duda should break in the center with D4. But he goes G3, a slightly slow move, also weakening this square F3. Pragg now chops off the pawn. Now taking with this pawn would not be great, because then H4 would hang. So that's the reason why he takes with the rook. And Pragg jumps in with the knight, attacking the bishop here, looking maybe at this square. Bishop comes to D5. Slightly curious move. The point is, if you take here, he wants to open up the E file. So clearly Pragg doesn't want to do that. He long castles. Knight C2. Now Pragg realizes that the time that white will take to break the queen side, he will get to the king side first. He checks, pawn takes, and look at how the G file has opened up. He's now looking in this direction. King F2, if you take this pawn, Queen H4 was pretty strong. So King F2 coming out from the G file, and the knight jumps in once again, threatening a check here. Knight comes in to defend against the G4 pawn, and now a very important move found by Pragg. Queen D7, threatening to take here and enter with the queen. The G3 pawn is weak. Duda takes, pawn takes, fantastic move. Queen G7, attacking here is the idea. D4, he wants to push the knight back. But Pragg finds Queen G7. You have to defend the G3 pawn. He brings the rook. And now what's the next move? He finds another fine move. Duda is shaking his head, because after rook takes F3, he gets knight H4. Rook comes up again. And Pragg now offers a rook trade. It's brilliant how Pragg has managed to bring all his pieces together for the attack. Queen goes back to D1, and now Queen G5. Another powerful move here by Pragg. Rook takes rook, There you see Magnus coming in to check what's happening. Rook moves to f3. Amazing play. The knight is hanging. It has to be defended. He brings queen c1, maybe threatening now to pick up the knight. But Pragg chops off the pawn. Rook takes, queen takes. You are pawn down now as Duda. And Praggnanandhaa is in the driver's seat. Queen f1. 2 minutes for both sides. Time has to be taken care of. He brings the knight back so that no checks are possible. King comes to d2. And now the knight jumps in. Knight f4. He pushes the pawn. He wants to create some play here on the queen side. Open up lines. Pragg takes. And Duda now can take with the queen, but that would be trouble because of check. So he takes with the pawn and Pragg pushes the pawn forward. Duda also trying to create some counterplay, but Pragg's h pawn is so strong. You can see h4, h3, and now Duda pushes another pawn forward and Pragg goes h2. He's just not stopping. His pawn is just so strong. He takes, he makes a queen. Wow, last 4 moves were all about the h pawn pushing down the board. Check. Now the knight is hanging. There's no way to protect it. King goes back. He takes with a check here. King comes up. And there are many ways to now convert this into a win. Pragg does it simply. Takes the pawn with his knight. Duda gives a check. King d7. Pragg has 31 seconds. Duda has 30 seconds. Will this be enough for Pragg? Takes. Knight takes c7. It feels like it. Pragg will now speed up considerably. Queen c5 offering a queen trade. Queen g6. And he brings the knight now into the attack. Queen c7 offering a trade. He doesn't want to take it and so chops the pawn. Check. And he gives a check. Queen goes back. Check. King here. He takes the pawn. Knight comes back. Duda moving quickly. Wants to flag Pragg. Finally a check comes in and Duda resigns. What a game by Praggnanandhaa. Amazing play. The game was complicated. He immediately gets up and starts looking at other games. The good news is that his team managed to beat the American Gambits thanks to his win and also the win by Daniel Darda on the Prodigy board against Jonas Beer. So Pragg actually making some real strides for his team, the Alpine SG Pipers. He's an absolute monster, Pragg, and he's doing amazingly well. Now with the key moments in the tournament coming up, he's pushing his team forward.